My sister mocked my fiance's trauma online, so I broke her phone. She then falsely claimed I assaulted her and got us kicked out, then stalked us at our new apartment. But we caught her on camera and got a restraining order that finally exposed the truth. My older sister and I have never gotten along, and the main reason for this is her attitude towards my fiance Ruth. Ruth has severe burn scarring on her face from when her childhood home burned down, and for whatever reason, my sister thinks it's okay to constantly point out Ruth's scars and joke about them. It all culminated last Thanksgiving, when my sister Vanessa posted a picture of everyone at the dinner table, but photoshopped the burn scars off of Ruth's face before posting. The entire table erupted, and when I asked Vanessa why she did, she claimed she didn't want Freddy Krueger over there, ruining her Instagram's aesthetic vibe. My jaw dropped in disbelief, and I looked over at Ruth, who was starting to tear up. She didn't want to show it, but I saw her lip quivering. My heart broke at that moment. Ruth had spent so long trying to accept her scars as beautiful, but now, having this done to her set her journey back by a lot. My instincts kicked in, and I immediately jumped into protective boyfriend mode. I forcefully grabbed Vanessa's phone out of her hands and deleted the picture, before slamming her phone down on the table and yell, asking what the hell was wrong with her. Vanessa began crying, begging me to stop slamming her phone because it would break. Good, I replied, slamming her phone down one more time. That's when my parents stepped in, telling me to calm down and that me and Ruth were overreacting. I snapped when I heard that. I got so angry I could barely hold it in, telling Ruth to get her things because we were going. The few days that followed were tense. Nobody in my family reached out, and I spent the entire time reassuring Ruth that she was the most beautiful girl in the world, and that her beauty wasn't defined by my ugly-hearted sister's shallow viewpoint. And then, 4 days after the whole fiasco, mine and Ruth's phones started blowing up. DM after DM, friends, family, acquaintances, all calling us horrible names and cutting us out of their lives. Even strangers that neither of us knew were sending us threats and calling us abusive monsters. We started freaking out, but somehow neither of us drew the obvious conclusion. Until Ruth checked Vanessa's Instagram, that is. That's when we saw it. A 10-picture collage of Vanessa with bruises on her face and stomach, tagging me and Ruth and calling us out for going psycho and doing this to her on Thanksgiving. She even posted a picture of her smashed phone as further evidence. Ruth immediately began crying. She had just secured a promotion she had been working towards for 2 years, and she was now most likely going to be fired. I wanted to reassure her that this wouldn't be the case, but that's when I realized we had bigger issues to worry about. Our landlord followed Vanessa on Instagram and most likely saw the post. I immediately took to contacting her, but before I could, I saw that I already had an unread email from her. She had emailed me letting me know she would not be leasing to abusers and was giving us 2 weeks to move out. I did my best to stay calm, but then my phone dinged. It was a text from my boss. Even he, who had no connection to Vanessa whatsoever, had somehow seen the IG post and sent me a link to it asking what this was all about. I felt mine and Ruth's entire world imploding. I remember calling Vanessa right away, asking what the hell was wrong with her. Why did she have to ruin our lives? She literally laughed in response, called it payback. I wanted to scream at her, but before I could, Ruth asked me to give her my phone and let her talk to Vanessa. She gave me a wink that suggested she was up to something. I was confused at first, but I trusted her, and as I saw her put Vanessa on speaker, I figured it out. A look of chaotic excitement washed over my face. Ruth and I were trying our hardest to hold back laughter. Over the next few minutes, we got Vanessa to go into a proud tangent about how the post was fake and that she was lying to ruin our lives for petty revenge. That was all we needed. We ended the call acting angry, when inside we were all smiles. You see, I was a lawyer, and we had just audio recorded Vanessa's confession. Her entire life was now in the palm of our hands. The only question was, what exactly should we do? Our reputations were being destroyed. Ruth's job was in jeopardy. We were about to be homeless, and my sister was gleefully watching it all unfold. I called our landlord first, trying to explain the situation. She wasn't having it. I don't want drama in my building, she said. I told her we had proof it was all made up. She sounded skeptical, but agreed to listen to the recording. I sent it to her immediately, along with screenshots showing the call timestamp matching the recording time. She called back an hour later. That's messed up, she admitted, but I've already got people interested in the unit. Family drama makes me nervous. After some negotiation, she agreed to give us 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks, but remained firm about wanting us out. The extra week was better than nothing, but we still had to scramble to find somewhere new. Next, Ruth called her boss. He was slightly more understanding, but still concerned. The company doesn't want to be associated with this kind of drama, he explained, regardless of who's at fault. Ruth had to schedule an emergency meeting with HR the next day to play them the recording and protect her position. I reached out to my colleague Tom at the law firm where I work. He specializes in defamation cases. After listening to the recording, he confirmed we had a solid case against Vanessa, but he also warned me that family lawsuits often backfire emotionally and financially. You might win the case, but lose what's left of your family, he cautioned, and these cases can drag on for years. Ruth and I talked it over and decided to try handling things outside of court first. We crafted a careful statement explaining the situation, with the audio clip attached. We were about to post it when my phone buzzed. It was my cousin Alex texting me. Hey man, Vanessa just deleted that post about you guys. What's going on? Somehow Vanessa had been tipped off about our plan to expose her. We later found out that my old college roommate Mark had warned her. He'd always had a crush on Vanessa and thought alerting her would win him points. It worked against us because now we couldn't reference her original post directly. The evidence was gone. We decided to reach out to my parents with the recording. Maybe hearing Vanessa's confession would finally open their eyes. My dad answered when I called, but as soon as I mentioned the recording, he shut down. I'm sure you probably manipulated the audio or took things out of context, he said. Vanessa already told us you might try something like this. At this point, I realized we needed to win over other family members first. My cousin Greg had always seemed skeptical of Vanessa's dramatic stories. When I called him, he wasn't surprised by anything I told him, but what he shared next floored me. Dude, she's been showing everyone bruise progress photos from different days, Greg explained. She's got like a whole series showing them healing over time. She's been sending them directly to various family members. This was more calculated than we'd realized. Vanessa hadn't just posted a one-time accusation. She'd been planning this revenge for days, creating a whole false narrative with supporting evidence. Ruth suggested we try to check the metadata on Vanessa's photos to prove they were taken and edited on the same day, but Instagram strips most metadata from uploaded images, so that approach was a dead end. I was starting to feel totally defeated when Ruth noticed something. In one of Vanessa's earliest bruise photos that Greg forwarded us, she had tagged someone, Makeup Magic by Tina. Ruth recognized the name. Tina was a makeup artist who specialized in special effects makeup. We found Tina's profile and sent her a message explaining the situation. She responded almost immediately but seemed hesitant to get involved. I don't want any drama, she wrote. After some back and forth, I promised her complete anonymity in exchange for confirmation. Finally, she admitted that Vanessa had hired her to create realistic-looking bruises for a film project. With this new information, we felt ready to confront Vanessa at the upcoming Sunday family dinner. But the day before, my mom called to tell me that Vanessa had announced she wouldn't attend if Ruth and I were going to be there. Instead of standing up to this obvious manipulation, my mom asked if we could skip just this once for the sake of family peace. I was so frustrated I almost hung up on her. Instead, I suggested meeting my dad one-on-one to show him the evidence, including Tina's confirmation. He reluctantly agreed to meet me for lunch the next day. When I arrived at the restaurant, I found not just my dad, but Vanessa too, already seated and looking tearfully vulnerable. It was an ambush. Before I could even pull out the evidence, they both started in on me about how I was tearing the family apart and how Ruth and I needed to let this go. I walked out. There was no point in trying to reason with them when they weren't interested in the truth. On the drive home, I realized just how toxic the situation had become, and it was only getting worse. I drove home completely defeated. The ambush at the restaurant had made it clear my parents weren't interested in the truth. They just wanted to sweep everything under the rug like they always did with Vanessa's behavior. When I got back to our apartment, Ruth was waiting anxiously on the couch. "How'd it go?" she asked, her expression already falling as she saw my face. "They set me up. Vanessa was there too," I said, slumping down beside her. "It was useless." Ruth sighed and leaned against my shoulder. We sat in silence for a few minutes, just processing how screwed we were. Our apartment situation was still precarious. Ruth's job was hanging by a thread, and my own workplace was starting to give me sideways looks. The next morning, I woke up to an email from our landlord. "Just checking if you've found a new place yet. I have people asking about viewing the apartment." Great, more pressure. I rolled over to tell Ruth, but she was already up and dressed for work. "I've got that HR meeting today," she reminded me, nervously adjusting her blouse. "I'm going to play them the recording." I nodded, trying to look confident for her sake. "They'll have to believe you with that evidence." The apartment hunt became our top priority that day. I spent my lunch break scrolling through listings, but prices in our area had skyrocketed since we first moved in 2 years ago. Everything in our budget would add at least 30 minutes to both our commutes. I bookmarked a few possibilities anyway. Beggars couldn't be choosers at this point. Ruth texted me after her HR meeting. "They said they believe me but want me to work remotely for a cooling off period until this blows over." I felt my blood pressure rising. Even with proof, Ruth was still being punished while Vanessa faced zero consequences. That evening, I got a call from Tom from work. "Hey man, just giving you a heads up. A woman named Vanessa called 3 of your clients today expressing concerns about your character." I intercepted 2 of the calls, but Tompkins heard her out. My stomach dropped. "She's calling my clients now? What did she say?" "Nothing directly accusatory. She's smarter than that. Just vague stuff about being worried about your state of mind and family concerns." Tompkins asked me what was going on. I thanked Tom for the warning and spent the next hour damage controlling with emails to my client list, casually mentioning a family member with some personal issues who might try to contact them inappropriately. It felt awful having to preemptively defend myself, but I couldn't risk losing clients over Vanessa's lies. By the end of the week, we'd found a potential apartment about 20 minutes further out. It was smaller than our current place, but within our budget. The application required personal references, which created a new problem. Who could we list that hadn't seen or believed Vanessa's posts? We ended up using Ruth's colleague Jamie and my law school friend Quinn, hoping they'd be enough. That weekend, Ruth's parents finally called. I was hopeful they might offer some support, but instead, her mom said, "Maybe this is a sign, honey. You could use the settlement money from the fire to get that new laser treatment for your scars. Then this whole thing would blow over." Ruth hung up and cried for hours. All that progress in accepting her scars, destroyed by her own mother suggesting she should fix herself. I held her and reminded her how beautiful she was, but I could see the old insecurities creeping back in. The apartment application was approved, but with a catch. They wanted double the security deposit because of our suddenly complicated rental history. We had to dip into our wedding savings to cover it. Every step forward seemed to come with another kick in the teeth. I was trying to keep my head down at work, but Vanessa made that impossible too. She started showing up at restaurants near my office during lunch hours, pretending it was coincidental. After the third run-in a week, I started eating at my desk to avoid her. It was pathetic having to hide, but I couldn't risk another public confrontation that she could twist. Ruth discovered from a coworker that Vanessa had joined her company's gym, clearly looking to spread more rumors. Ruth switched to early morning workouts to avoid her, waking up at 5 a.m. just to exercise in peace. The stress was taking a visible toll on her. She'd lost weight and had dark circles under her eyes from poor sleep. While packing for our move, we realized how many of our household items had been gifts from family members who now believed we were abusive monsters. Each photo frame and serving dish became a painful reminder of relationships damaged by Vanessa's lies. We ended up donating several boxes of perfectly good items because they carried too many bad memories. Moving day arrived, and thankfully Vanessa didn't make an appearance. Our new place was depressingly bare after getting rid of so much stuff, but at least it was ours. We spent that first night sitting on our mattress on the floor, eating takeout and trying to convince ourselves things would get better. "Maybe now that we've moved, she'll back off," Ruth said, not sounding like she believed it. 2 days later, my mom called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "We need to talk," she said, her voice softer than usual. "I want to try to fix this." I agreed to meet her for coffee, alone. When I arrived, she looked tired and nervous, not her usual confident self. "I've been thinking about everything," she started. "I still don't understand why you and Ruth reacted so strongly at Thanksgiving, but..." I cut her off. "Mom, Vanessa has been cruel to Ruth from day one. The Thanksgiving post was just the last straw. I know she can be insensitive sometimes, but no, Mom. She's been deliberately vicious. And then she fabricated an entire assault story and trashed our reputations. We lost our apartment. Ruth nearly lost her job, and you're still making excuses for her." My mom fidgeted with her coffee cup. "I just want everyone to apologize and move past this. Family is family. That's the problem," I said. "You want us to apologize to Vanessa? Where's her accountability in all this?" The conversation went in circles, with her primarily wanting us to make peace regardless of who started it. I left feeling more frustrated than before. Back at the new apartment, Ruth was on her laptop looking stressed. "Tina backed out," she said. "What do you mean?" "The makeup artist. Vanessa threatened to destroy her business with bad reviews, so she's retracting her statement. We just lost our best witness." It felt like 1 step forward, 3 steps back. Every time we gained some ground, Vanessa found a way to undermine us. The next week, I got called into my boss's office. Apparently, HR had received an email expressing concerns about my mental state and potential anger management issues. It took a humiliating hour-long conversation to explain the whole situation to my boss and HR rep. They seemed understanding, but suggested I keep family matters outside the workplace, as if I had any control over Vanessa's campaign against us. Ruth found unexpected support in her burn survivor support group. She'd been a member for years, but had drifted away recently. When she shared what was happening, the group rallied around her with advice and emotional support. It was the first positive development in weeks, until Vanessa somehow found the group's public Facebook page and left mocking comments on their posts. Ruth had to explain the situation to the group moderators to get Vanessa blocked, exposing our personal drama to even more people. We decided to try rebuilding our social circle by hosting a small gathering at our new place. Of the 12 friends friends we invited, only 5 showed up. The others made vague excuses or didn't respond at all. Even those who came seemed uncomfortable, clearly having heard Vanessa's version of events. Our friend Barbara was the only one who directly addressed the elephant in the room. "I never believed that post," she said. "I've known you guys too long, but some people are saying you're threatening Vanessa to stay quiet now." "What? That's completely false," I said, shocked at this new accusation. Barbara nodded. "I figured. She's got a whole victim narrative going. Says you guys are trying to silence her with legal threats. It was exhausting trying to counter every new lie." Barbara suggested we create a private document detailing the timeline with evidence we could share with close friends. We spent hours putting it together, carefully wording everything as our experience, rather than direct accusations to avoid any potential legal issues. We shared the document with our most trusted circle, hoping it would help clear our names. Within days, we noticed some of those friends had stopped communicating with us entirely. We couldn't figure out who had leaked the document to Vanessa, but someone clearly had. One evening, Ruth's phone rang with an unknown number. She answered cautiously, then her eyes widened as she put it on speaker. "I know what you're doing," Vanessa's voice came through. "That little document you're sharing? I could sue you for defamation. Everything in that document is factual, and we have evidence," I replied. Vanessa laughed. "Good luck proving that. By the way, how's the new apartment? Smaller than the last one, right?" Ruth's face went pale. "How do you know that?" "I have friends everywhere," Vanessa said cryptically before hanging up. That night, we double-checked all our locks and social media privacy settings. The idea that Vanessa might know where we lived was terrifying. We had no proof she actually knew our address, but the implied threat was enough to keep us on edge. The next day, I logged into Reddit and created a throwaway account. I posted our entire story on r/legal advice, hoping for some insight. Most commenters suggested documentation, security cameras, and possibly a cease and desist letter. One particularly helpful user named Jordan, who claimed to be a therapist, suggested Vanessa might have a personality disorder and recommended we research gray rock technique for dealing with her. We installed a doorbell camera that weekend and started being extremely careful about what we shared online. Ruth created a separate group chat with just her most trusted friends, excluding anyone who had contact with Vanessa. Just when things seemed to be stabilizing, Ruth got news that her department was being restructured and she was being considered to lead a new project. It should have been exciting, but her boss mentioned they needed someone drama-free who could represent the company positively. The implication was clear. The Vanessa situation could cost Ruth this opportunity. Meanwhile, my parents were planning their anniversary dinner and sent us a formal invitation. When I called my mom to ask if Vanessa would be there, she sighed heavily. "She's family. Of course she'll be there," she said. "But she's promised to be on her best behavior." "Mom, her best behavior is still awful to Ruth. And after everything she's done, I know, but your father and I really want everyone there. Can't you just avoid each other for one evening? For us?" The guilt trip was classic mom manipulation. I told her I'd discuss it with Ruth and call back. Ruth was surprisingly open to going. "Maybe it's time to stop hiding," she said. "If we keep avoiding family events, she wins." We agreed to attend, but made our own transportation arrangements so we could leave immediately if needed. We also decided I would never leave Ruth alone during the evening. No separating to chat with different relatives. The dinner was at an upscale restaurant with about 20 family members present. When we arrived, Vanessa was already there, holding court with my aunts. She glanced our way but didn't acknowledge us. My mom rushed over to hug us, looking relieved and nervous simultaneously. The seating arrangement kept us at the opposite end of the table from Vanessa, which was my mom's attempt at peacekeeping. Dinner progressed with awkward small talk, everyone carefully avoiding mention of the elephant in the room. Then came the toasts. Various family members stood to congratulate my parents on their anniversary. When it was almost over, Vanessa clinked her glass and stood up. "I just want to say how special it is to have almost everyone here supporting Mom and Dad," she said, emphasizing the almost while looking directly at us. "Despite some difficult family dynamics recently, we know who truly cares about family." She raised her glass with a victorious smile. I started to stand, ready to respond, but Ruth grabbed my arm and whispered, "Don't give her what she wants." She was right. Engaging with Vanessa's passive-aggressive toast would just create the scene she was hoping for. Instead, I raised my glass silently, maintaining eye contact with Vanessa until she looked away first. After dinner, my cousin Patricia pulled us aside. "That was gross," she said, nodding toward Vanessa. "Just so you know, not everyone believes her version of events." It was a small comfort, but it meant a lot knowing at least some family members saw through Vanessa's act. We managed to make it through the entire evening without direct confrontation. As we were leaving, my dad caught up with us in the parking lot. "I appreciate you two coming tonight," he said awkwardly. "Your mother's been very stressed about all this." "We came for you and Mom," I replied. "Not for Vanessa," he nodded. "I know things have been complicated, but she's your sister." "Dad, she fabricated assault allegations against us. That goes way beyond complicated." He looked uncomfortable. "People make mistakes. Maybe we could all sit down with a mediator or something? Try to work through this?" I agreed to think about it, mostly to end the conversation. In the car, Ruth and I debriefed on the evening, feeling oddly triumphant about simply surviving the dinner without incident. That small victory was short-lived. The next morning, we woke to find our doorbell camera notification showing someone had been at our door at 3 a.m. The footage showed a hooded figure leaving something on our doormat. I cautiously opened our front door to find a small gift box with no card. Inside was a framed photo of Ruth and me from my parents' anniversary dinner, a photo taken just hours earlier that we hadn't posed for or known about. Scrawled across the glass in red marker were the words, "I'm always watching." Ruth's hands shook as she set the frame down. "She followed us home. She knows where we live." I immediately called the police. They sent an officer to take a report, but he wasn't encouraging. "Without a direct threat or evidence of who left it, there's not much we can do," he explained. "I'd recommend a restraining order if you know who did this." We knew exactly who did it, but proving it would be difficult. I called Tom again for legal advice. "You could file for a restraining order," he confirmed, "but you'd need to show a pattern of harassment, not just suspicion. The recording you have is good evidence of defamation, but not necessarily ongoing harassment." We decided to continue documenting everything while increasing our security measures. I installed additional cameras covering all approaches to our apartment and changed our routines again, taking different routes to work and varying our schedules. The psychological toll was mounting. Ruth started having anxiety attacks about leaving the apartment. I found myself checking over my shoulder constantly. Our relationship was solid, but the stress was affecting us both. Date nights became rare as we preferred the safety of our apartment, but even there, we didn't feel completely secure. One night, after a particularly rough day where Ruth had to give a presentation at work while dealing with whispers from colleagues, she broke down. "I can't live like this anymore," she sobbed. "I feel like I'm back in middle school, being bullied for my scars all over again. But this time, it's an adult doing it, and no one will stop her." I held her tightly, feeling helpless and angry. "We'll find a way to end this," I promised. The next day, I took a personal day from work and met with a different lawyer, one with no connection to my firm or family. Richard was a no-nonsense type who specialized in harassment cases. I laid out everything that had happened, showing him our evidence. "You've got a solid defamation case," he said, echoing what Tom had told me. "But from what you're describing, this may also qualify as stalking and harassment. The issue is proving saying it's her leaving items at your door or following you. So what do we do? You need more direct evidence connecting her to these actions, and you need to establish a clear paper trail of you asking her to stop contacting you. We drafted a formal cease and desist letter that afternoon. It clearly outlined Vanessa's actions and demanded she stop all contact with us, directly or through third parties. Richard arranged for it to be delivered by courier with signature confirmation. Vanessa's response came within hours, a text message with a single laughing emoji. It wasn't the legal response we'd hoped for, but it was another piece of evidence showing her dismissive attitude toward our boundaries. 2 weeks later, we were both startled awake by our phones simultaneously blowing up with notifications. My heart sank, thinking Vanessa had posted something new. Instead, we found dozens of messages from friends and family asking if we were okay. Confused, I opened Facebook to find my cousin Greg had tagged us in a post, concerned about my cousins after what I just witnessed. At Vanessa showing up at their apartment at midnight, leaving threatening notes is not okay. Family doesn't terrorize family. The post included a video clearly showing Vanessa approaching our door, envelope in hand. Greg had apparently been visiting a friend in our building and recognized her. The family fallout was immediate. Vanessa denied everything, claiming the video was doctored. My parents called in a panic, finally seeming to realize the severity of the situation. Comments flooded in on Greg's post, with family members taking sides. Some defended Vanessa, suggesting Greg was orchestrating a setup, while others expressed shock at her behavior. Most importantly, we now had clear evidence connecting Vanessa to the harassment. Richard advised us to file for the restraining order immediately, using Greg's video as evidence. The day we filed the paperwork was the first time I felt like we were taking back control. We still had a long road ahead, a court hearing, potential family reconciliation, or permanent estrangement, and rebuilding our reputations. But for the first time in months, I felt hopeful that there might be an end to this nightmare. That night, Ruth and I sat on our couch, actually relaxed for the first time in ages. "What do you think happens next?" she asked. I took her hand. "I don't know exactly, but whatever Vanessa tries, we'll face it together." Little did we know that Vanessa was already planning her most desperate move yet. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing like crazy. I groggily checked it and saw 3 missed calls from my boss. That's never good at 7:30 a.m. I called him back immediately while Ruth was still sleeping. "What the hell is going on?" he asked without even saying hello. "Your sister just emailed our entire firm claiming you're mentally unstable and potentially dangerous to clients." My stomach dropped. "She what?" "She sent documentation from some therapist saying you have rage issues that make you unfit to practice law. The partners are freaking out." I explained the situation as calmly as possible, promising to forward all our evidence including the restraining order filing. After hanging up, I woke Ruth to tell her what happened. She immediately checked her work email and found something similar had happened there too. "This is her desperate move," Ruth said. "She knows we've got real evidence now, so she's trying to destroy our careers before the restraining order hearing." I called Richard right away. He wasn't surprised. Classic escalation pattern. When abusers realize they're losing control, they often make a big, desperate move. This actually helps our case. She's creating more evidence of harassment. We spent the entire day damage controlling with our employers. My law firm put me on a temporary administrative leave pending investigation. Ruth's company was more supportive after seeing Greg's video, but still suggested she work from home until things settled down. By evening, we discovered Vanessa had also contacted our new landlord. Thankfully, the property management company was larger and more professional than our previous landlord. They simply documented the situation and advised us to forward any court orders once finalized. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the following week. Richard helped us prepare, assembling all our evidence chronologically. The stress was unbelievable, both our careers hanging in the balance while we waited. 3 days before the hearing, my dad called. His voice sounded strange, subdued. "I need to talk to you," he said. "Can we meet tomorrow?" Just us. I was wary after the previous ambush, but agreed to meet him at a coffee shop near my office. I arrived early, scoping out the place to make sure Vanessa wasn't lurking somewhere. Dad showed up alone, looking tired and much older than I remembered. "I found something," he said, after ordering coffee. He slid a small notebook across the table. I opened it cautiously. It was Vanessa's handwriting, what looked like a diary or planner. Flipping through it, I saw detailed notes about Ruth's schedule, our apartment layout, and a list titled "Ways to Make Them Pay." "Where did you get this?" I asked, stunned. "Your mother and I went to help Vanessa clean her apartment yesterday. She's been unstable since Greg posted that video. I found this while gathering some books." He looked down at his coffee. "I didn't tell your mother. I needed to see if it was real first." The notebook included dates, times, and specific plans for harassing us. Most disturbing was a page detailing how she'd researched makeup techniques, specifically to create fake bruises that would photograph well. "Can I keep this?" I asked. Dad nodded. "I made copies of the important pages first. I'm sorry it took me so long to see what was happening." I was speechless. After months of defending Vanessa, my dad had finally seen the truth. "Will you testify at the restraining order hearing?" I asked. He looked pained, but nodded. "If it comes to that, yes. Your mother won't understand, but this has gone too far." The day before the hearing, Vanessa tried one last desperate move. She showed up at Ruth's workplace, creating a scene in the lobby by loudly accusing Ruth of ruining her life. Security escorted her out, but not before several of Ruth's colleagues witnessed the meltdown. One of them recorded it on their phone and sent it to Ruth as evidence. On the morning of the hearing, we arrived at the courthouse early. Richard met us with confident news. He'd subpoenaed the therapist whose documentation Vanessa had sent to our employers. Turns out she'd never even met the guy. She paid for a telehealth consultation under a fake name, describing symptoms that weren't hers to get paperwork she could doctor. We sat nervously in the courtroom waiting for proceedings to begin. Vanessa showed up with her own lawyer, some guy who looked barely out of law school. My parents entered separately, sitting in the middle row rather than beside either of us. When the judge called our case, Richard presented our evidence methodically. The original recording, screenshots of defamatory posts, the video from Greg, the notebook my dad provided, and statements from witnesses including Ruth's colleagues who saw Vanessa's workplace outburst. Vanessa's lawyer tried claiming we were the ones harassing her, but his arguments fell apart under basic questioning. The therapist testified via video call, confirming he'd never diagnosed anyone with the issues Vanessa had claimed in her emails to our employers. The turning point came when the judge asked if anyone else wished to speak. My dad stood up. "Your Honor, as Vanessa's father, I need to tell you that my wife and I enabled this behavior for years. We always made excuses for her, even when deep down we knew something wasn't right. What she's done to her brother and Ruth is inexcusable, and she needs help that our family cannot provide." Vanessa looked absolutely betrayed. She started sobbing dramatically, but for once, nobody rushed to comfort her. The judge granted the restraining order, requiring Vanessa to stay at least 500 feet from us, our home, and our workplaces. She was also ordered to cease all communication, direct or indirect, including through social media or third parties. As we left the courthouse, Vanessa tried approaching my parents, but my mother turned away. It was the first time I'd ever seen them truly hold her accountable. Richard advised us to send the court documentation to our employers and landlord immediately. "Now you've got official court recognition that you were the victims, not the perpetrators," he explained. The aftermath was messy, but ultimately healing. My firm apologized and welcomed me back after reviewing the court documents. Ruth's company was similarly supportive, even offering her counseling services as part of their employee assistance program. We learned through family grapevine that Vanessa had been fired from her job after her boss discovered she'd used company resources to research and harass us. She moved back in with my parents temporarily, which couldn't have been easy for anyone involved. My mom called about a month after the hearing, asking if we could get coffee. I went alone first, still protective of Ruth's emotional well-being. Mom looked different, more subdued, less perfectly put together. "I'm seeing a therapist," she said immediately. "I'm trying to understand how I contributed to all this." We had a long, difficult conversation about family dynamics, about how Vanessa had been the center of everything for so long that enabling her became automatic. Mom cried when I described how Ruth had felt, being mocked for scars she'd carried since childhood. "I failed both of you," she admitted, "and I need to earn back your trust. It wasn't an overnight fix." We agreed to occasional family sessions with a therapist who specialized in family systems. Vanessa wasn't part of these. She'd started an intensive outpatient program after being diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. My parents had finally set firm boundaries, making her treatment a condition of their support. Ruth was hesitant to reconnect with my parents, but eventually agreed to a carefully structured meeting. It was awkward and emotional, but ended with genuine apologies from both my parents and tissues all around. 6 months later, things had stabilized into a new normal. We moved again, but this time by choice, to a larger apartment in a building with better security. Ruth got the promotion she deserved and was thriving at work. My firm made me a junior partner, impressed by my professionalism throughout the ordeal. Vanessa remained in treatment, with strictly supervised family contact. My parents joined a support group for families of people with personality disorders, finally learning how to love her without enabling destructive behavior. The restraining order expired after a year. A few months before it expired, we received an apology letter from Vanessa. Her therapist had reached out, with Vanessa's permission, to say she was making progress and wanted to write us. The letter was imperfect, but showed genuine reflection. She acknowledged specific behaviors and their impact without excuses. Ruth read it twice, then set it aside without immediately responding. "I don't forgive her yet," Ruth told me that night, "but I'm not carrying this anger around anymore. That's enough progress for now." We finally rescheduled our wedding for the following spring. Smaller than originally planned, but surrounded by people we truly trusted. My parents attended. Vanessa did not. It was a boundary everyone understood and respected. On our wedding day, Ruth looked absolutely radiant. No makeup covering her scars. She wore them proudly as part of her journey. During her vows, she thanked me for standing by her through the darkest storm of outside judgment and promised to always be my shelter in return. At the reception, my dad pulled me aside. "I'm sorry we almost lost you," he said simply. "You two deserve every happiness." Ruth's burn survivor group friends surprised us with a honeymoon fund, saying Ruth's courage had inspired many of them to stop hiding and start living fully. We still have the audio recording of Vanessa's confession stored securely in the cloud, not to use against her, but as a reminder to trust our own reality when others try to distort it. We haven't needed to access it in over a year. Last month, we bought our first house. The security system was my top priority during the home inspection. Old habits die hard, I guess. But when Ruth suggested we turn the extra bedroom into a nursery just to have it ready, I realized we'd finally moved from surviving to planning a future. Vanessa continues her treatment program and maintains appropriate distance. She sends birthday cards through my parents and occasionally asks how we're doing. It's not forgiveness exactly, but it's a workable piece. Complex family trauma doesn't just disappear, but we're no longer defined by what Vanessa did to us. We're defined by how we rebuilt, together, stronger than before.